So here's my finished product of my battery relocation. So I had to replace the cables that went from the battery box under the passenger seat down to the starter because they weren't long enough. So I replaced everything. They were 2-aught cables. I replaced everything to 4-aught welding cable just because I had a bunch of it on hand. So here's the new cables coming through to the starter. It's the ground down on the starter. And there's the 24-volt positive on the solenoid. So there were also 2 wires that ran parallel from the battery box down to here. One was called ground A, and the other one was 68. So those just ran parallel up to the battery box. They connected to the same battery post that the positive and negative did, and they connected right here to those. So instead of running them parallel back with the other cables and bringing them back, I figured I would just jump them right down here onto there. I figured, why not? If they land at the same battery post on the other end, I'll just jump it down here and save some cable. So these cables run back. I routed them under the truck when I replaced the floor. Kind of see them going through there. Went through the same spots. And then I put the batteries in this toolbox. I've painted them, and I used the Raptor liner I used for the cab floor inside of here. So there they are. I come through back there. That connector is called a Myers hub. It's a weather sealing connector that comes through. It's an electrical fitting. So I come in there with the positive and the negative. The negatives come over here up to my battery switch. This switch, or the bracket, is just a piece of 3 by 3 by 3/16 angle iron. I drilled and milled it out for the switch. And then for the battery mounts, I used some 2 by 2 by 1/4 angle I had laying around. Same over here. Those J bolts were the factory bolts that held the batteries down inside the cab. I just drilled them out there, put them through there. Just have a piece of 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 by 1/8 angle that I made the adapter here. I want to machine out some right angle parts that come up flat on the top so this isn't kind of wonky like this, but obviously nothing's going anywhere. All the cables are high pressed in there, high press lugs that I used, made my 24-volt connections. And then under the truck, those are those electrical fittings I was telling you about, those Myers hubs. There's rubber seals that are up inside of here that seal with teeth that bite into the metal. And then these here are just plastic compression fittings that have a rubber gland in here that's sealed down there. So that wire is weatherproof. So no moisture can pass through here. This is a sealed connection. And then the cable just runs under the truck and then up through that way, the same way it used to come before it went through the floor. But it's turned out really well. I really didn't want to use up this toolbox, but it's nice to have them down here where it's accessible. Only thing having to be cautious of and mindful of is you only have about 4 inches here. So while you're working with a wrench in here doing these terminations, you got to be cautious because you got 24 volts and a whole lot of cold cranking amps. If you arc out between here and the top or here and another post, you just got to be really mindful and cautious while you're working on this stuff. I've got high voltage insulated wrenches. They're rated to 1,000 volts that I use for work, so it makes it a lot safer, but it's just something to be aware of while you're working in here. And this will leave me room. I have a 12-volt converter that I'm going to add in here, and then an inverter I'm going to put in here that I can come directly off of the batteries and grab that power for 12-volt power and also 120-volt power. But that'll be a whole nother whole nother project, just having the batteries out of the cab, and which allowed me to open up to put these air ride seats in here, but it turned out well.